comes down to it, a year from now, hopefully this conflict will be behind us. They'll have moved on to some sort of reconstruction phase, maybe even a peacemaking stage. People will come to remember that the contrast between a Democratic president they may not be particularly happy with on all fronts, and Donald Trump, who in the view of these, left-leaning voters are going to be far more, objectionable, and that they'll get these people back. But we don't know, obviously. There's a lot of ifs.
I mentioned Biden is the 5th U.S. president you've covered, which prompts me to wonder, and this is unknowable, of course, but based on many years covering the White House, can you imagine past American presidents would have navigated this war in a fundamentally different way than Biden is?
I think so, and I think we see it even just, for instance, with the president that Biden served, President Obama. In just the last few weeks, you've heard him give across a much different type of message. He's much more of a, we have to understand both sides here. None of us have clean hands here. That's his phrase, I think. And it sounded very different than the way Biden sounds. And in fact, there's some friction there, I think, between the Biden and Obama camps because of that. They don't feel like President Obama's comments were very helpful to President Biden at this time. But I think President Obama, just as an example, would have certainly handled it differently, would not have been so full-throated in his support for Israel, would have been much more measured, maybe balanced in his phrase, in how he handled it.
So let me start to bring us to a close by looking forward. There have been all kinds of questions about the day after, meaning what happens the day after this war in Gaza eventually, we hope, comes to some kind of conclusion. When you look at the big picture about how this ends, U.S. policy is to support a two-state solution, an independent state for Palestinians, alongside that of Israel. Is that a fundamental clash between U.S. goals and values and Israel's?
Well, it is, actually. I mean, the Israelis may give lip service at the moment to the idea of a two-state solution, but they have not been there for a number of years. And it doesn't feel like there's a lot of real possibility there at the moment for that. The energy isn't there, the leadership on both sides isn't there. But having said that, what we saw in history, we saw that after the 1973 war, was 4 years later, Sadat comes to Jerusalem and then goes to Camp David and makes peace with the Israelis. So you never know how these things will work out. But I don't know that the two-state solution in and of itself has a lot of momentum at the moment.
Peter Baker, sharing many years of reporting and expertise there with us. He is Chief White House Correspondent for the New York Times. Thank you.
Thank you. It's great talking to you.
The Federal Reserve has been raising interest rates for better than a year and a half now, but some businesses have not been affected at all.
The services that we have are something that most people would consider at the time that they call us a thing that is not really an option.
I'm Connor Risdall. The sectors of this economy where rate hikes just haven't mattered all that much. We'll tell you about them next time on Marketplace.
Be sure and join us for Marketplace coming up this evening at 6:30 on WHYY.
Supporting WHYY, UPenn's nonprofit Leadership Masters Program, encouraging thought leaders, social entrepreneurs, and innovators to transform their careers through a Penn degree. Open house December 6th, sp2.upenn.edu/nonprofit.
Supporting WHYY, Impriano Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Family-owned and operated. Committed to quality and service for nearly 5 decades. Impriano.com or 610-644-4444. Impriano, the best homes have an Impriano roof.
It is 19 minutes past the hour. I'm Matt Gill. Good to be with you here on WHYY for a Monday edition of All Things Considered. Up ahead for us in the latter part of the hour as the program continues, the fossil fuel industry, well, it has a rather big footprint and laps at this year's climate talks in Dubai. But what are the oil companies actually saying, and why does that matter? We are going to hear just what they are up to at COP28. Stay with us for that in about 15 minutes as All Things Considered continues. Right now, mostly cloudy, a little bit of sunshine coming through in Center City. Temperatures sitting around 47 degrees. Looks like clouds are going to be sticking with us most of the night. Later on, around midnight or so, things should be clearing up. It's WHYY, the time, 4:20.
Support for NPR comes from this station and from Indeed, designed to be an end-to-end hiring solution for businesses of all sizes to attract, interview, and hire candidates, all from one platform. Learn more at Indeed.com/NPR. From the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, supporting books, radio, podcasts, film, television, theater, and more to bridge science and the humanities. And from the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation at macfound.org.
From NPR News, this is All Things Considered. I'm Ari Shapiro.
And I'm Elsa Chang. A longtime U.S. diplomat has been arrested and charged with being a secret agent of the Cuban government. Victor Manuel Rocha was a State Department employee for more than 20 years. Prosecutors say that during that time and in the 20 years after he retired from government, Rocha was an illegal agent for Cuba. He was charged today in federal court in Miami. That's where NPR's Greg Allen is, and he joins us now. Hi, Greg.
Hi, Elsa.
Okay, so the government is saying now that Rocha was a Cuban agent, and during that entire time he worked for the State Department, right? But he wasn't caught until now. How did the government finally discover all of this?
Well, Rocha was arrested at his home here in Miami on Friday. We didn't learn of the arrest until yesterday, and details really didn't start coming out until the criminal complaint was today. According to the complaint, the FBI was alerted of Rocha's alleged work for Cuba in 2022. An FBI undercover employee posing as a Cuban agent then contacted Rocha and held a series of meetings with him in Miami. The meetings were held at a food court in Miami's Brickell neighborhood, where Rocha told the FBI informant that he didn't think he'd be recognized. There were 3 meetings with the undercover informant, and over time, Rocha appears to become more relaxed. He began to brag about his work for the Cuban government. The complaint says Rocha admitted that he was a Cuban agent for nearly 4 decades. He made a brief appearance in court in Miami today, where he's reported to have broken down in tears, and prosecutors indicated more charges may be coming.